The auction hall in Mercer County reeked of stale coffee and dust. A suffocating mix that clung to the back of Claire Harper's throat. She sat in the far corner, clutching an envelope with exactly $940 in crumpled bills, her entire savings. Scraped together after rent, groceries, and a string of job rejections that had chipped away at her confidence like a slow, relentless tide. At 29, she felt out of place among the polished bidders in their pressed suits and confident smirks. Her faded jacket and scuffed boots screamed she didn't belong. But Claire was here, her heart pounding with a defiance she couldn't name. The auctioneer's voice cut through the murmurs. Lot 47, one abandoned residential property, no guarantees. Starting bid, $700. A few heads turned, but most ignored it, their eyes on glossier listings. Claire raised her hand, fingers trembling but steady enough. $700 from the back. The auctioneer called. Do I hear 8? Silence. A man in a cheap blazer, scrolling on his phone, muttered, 800. Without looking up, Claire's grip tightened on the envelope. 900, she said, her voice slicing through the room. The man glanced at her, scoffed, and shook his head. The gavel slammed. Sold for $900. The room moved on to the next lot. But Claire stayed frozen, the empty envelope heavy in her hands. Her phone buzzed, shattering the moment. A video from her sister, Vanessa Pierce. Claire's stomach twisted as she tapped play. Vanessa stood in front of the house Claire had just won, a crumbling relic she hadn't even seen up close yet. Vanessa's mock tears dissolved into laughter. My sister just blew $940 on a haunted shack. She's officially lost it. Thoughts and prayers. Y'all. The post had 300 likes already. Comments piling up. Classic Claire. Some people never learn. Claire slid the phone into her pocket. Her face blank. It wasn't the mockery that stung. It was the flicker of hope she'd foolishly held onto. The belief that this time, Vanessa might have let her be. 2 days earlier, the Harper family had gathered for their mother's birthday at the sprawling family estate in rural Illinois. Vanessa, her husband Greg, younger brother Noah, and Aunt Lila, who never missed a chance at free wine, filled the dining room with forced cheer. Halfway through dinner, Vanessa stood, presenting a cake box with a flourish. This, she said, setting it before their mother, is for our family's newest real estate tycoon. The cake bore a high-res image of Claire's auctioned house, shattered windows, a sagging shutter, and the words, "Congrats on the breakdown, Claire," scrawled in frosting. The room erupted in laughter. Noah choked on his wine, nearly spilling it. Their mother, Diane, shook her head but smiled. No one stopped it. Claire stared at the cake, the plastic knife in her hand, not thinking of tears or tantrums but of the silence, the complicit, comfortable silence that made cruelty feel like a family heirloom. That night, Claire drove alone, the road to the property twisting through golden fields and bare trees. Late autumn painting everything in hues of decay. In a family like hers, being the youngest didn't make you the favorite. It made you the scapegoat, the one they mocked to dodge their own flaws. She'd once thought it was just sibling teasing. But time revealed a pattern. They'd conditioned her to feel small, unworthy. Eleanor Roosevelt said no one could make you feel inferior without your consent. But Claire's family didn't ask for consent, they built it into her bones. The next morning, she pulled up to the house. The mailbox read, Harper, in faded, peeling letters, as if the house itself was shedding its past. Vines choked one side, nature's attempt to erase what no one cared to claim. Claire sat in her car too long, half expecting Vanessa to show up with a camera, half wishing someone would see her take this leap. The key took 3 tries to turn in the rusted lock. The door creaked open, reluctant, like it doubted her right to enter. Inside, the air was thick, stale with time. Dust coated everything, warped floorboards. A broken lamp plugged into nothing. Cobwebs catching the weak light from cracked windows. The house wasn't haunted. It was abandoned, forgotten, and that felt worse. Claire wandered through the kitchen. Rusted tools, a moldy toaster, cabinets hanging open like they'd been interrupted mid-thought. She touched the counter's edge and whispered, "This is mine," not because it was given, Not because she'd earned it, but because no one else wanted it, and that meant no one could take it away. In a back room, her foot sank into a soft spot. The floorboard dipped. Curious, she pried it up with her nails, revealing a dusty frame wrapped in flannel. Her breath caught as she unfolded it. It was a photograph. Claire, maybe 6, stood in front of this very house. Hair wild, shoelaces untied, clutching her father's hand. Daniel Harper, smiling, his eyes warm with a pride she barely remembered. The house behind them looked alive. Whole. She had no memory of this moment. Flipping the photo over, she saw his handwriting, looped. Steady, purposeful. One day, when you're ready, come back here. Claire sank cross-legged onto the dusty floor, the photo trembling in her hands. This wasn't just a picture, it was her father. Not the polished version Vanessa and Diane paraded at charity galas, but the man who'd fixed old radios in the garage, savoring the quiet focus. His words weren't nostalgia, they were a breadcrumb, left for her to find when she was desperate enough to listen. The afternoon light shifted, casting long shadows across the warped wood. Claire stood, brushing off her jeans, and moved deeper into the house. Each creak of the floor felt like the place was waking up, acknowledging her presence after years of neglect. In the back office, a roll-top desk sat under moldy newspapers, the air heavy with decay. The top drawer was locked. Without hesitation, she grabbed a rusted pry bar from the kitchen and forced it open. Inside was an envelope, faded but sealed. Her name, Claire Harper. Not, kid, or, hey, you, written in her father's unmistakable script. Her hands shook as she tore it open. The letter was dated 8 months before his stroke. Before Vanessa took over the estate. Before Claire was told she'd already gotten enough. Though she couldn't recall what that meant. His words were plain, deliberate. He regretted the family's fractures, his failure to intervene, the pressure to sign documents he didn't believe in. One line burned into her. If anything happens to me, know this. Some signatures are not mine. Claire reread it until the words blurred. Not from tears but from a cold, sharpening rage. She walked to the kitchen window, the glass smeared with years of grime, and stared at the fading sky. She remembered her last real talk with her father. On the porch of the family estate. Him in a sweater he hated, holding a mug of tea no one bothered to ask if he wanted. What's worse than being forgotten? He'd asked out of nowhere. Being remembered for something you never did. She'd nodded, mumbled about being late, and left. Now, she understood. He'd warned her. He'd seen it coming. Returning to the office, her legs felt heavy, not weak, but grounded. This house wasn't a ruin, it was a vault. And she'd just found the key. She pulled the drawer out entirely. Tilting it, a false bottom shifted, revealing a folded, embossed document, a legal will. Older than the one Vanessa had filed. Claire's name was there, not as an afterthought but as an heir. The house. A storage unit. A share of the family foundation. Everything Vanessa claimed was never meant to be hers. Claire's breath caught as she touched the bottom corner. Her father's fingerprints were still there. Faint but undeniable. This wasn't just a house. It was proof. Proof of what she'd suspected but never dared voice. The walls weren't just dusty. They were layered with memories she'd been systematically erased from. In the den, a gallery wall of family photos told the story. Claire was either cropped out, turned away, or missing entirely. One image, Vanessa and their father at her graduation, had a plaque. Family pride. Claire remembered that day. She'd bought the cake, but the photo lied, and the lie wasn't careless. It was tradition. Claire didn't cry. She stood there, letting the house settle around her, as if it agreed. Then she changed into clean clothes and drove to the family estate. The gates were open. Vanessa's sleek SUV parked at its usual angle, blocking the fire lane just like their father used to hate. Claire rang the bell. Vanessa opened the door, her smile sharp as a blade. Claire, she drawled, this is a surprise. Claire stepped inside without asking. We need to talk. Vanessa blinked, stepping back. I've got a lunch in an hour. I found the will. Claire cut in. The original. His signature. Notarized seal. Vanessa's smile faltered. Just for a second. You found an old draft. Dad liked to scribble things out before going through proper channels. Claire held her gaze. Don't patronize me, Vanessa, he wrote. Some signatures are not mine. You want to dig? I've got a shovel. Vanessa said nothing, just gestured to the living room. Why don't you sit? Claire stayed standing. As Vanessa walked to the kitchen, Claire's eyes caught the family portrait above the fireplace. Something was off. She stepped closer, noticing a faint crack in the glass. Peeling back the corner, she saw the original beneath, a photo where she stood between her father and Noah. Wearing a dress she remembered. They hadn't erased her, they'd replaced her with a version they preferred. Digitally stitched into the frame. Claire snapped a photo on her phone and walked out. Vanessa didn't follow. Back at the house, the anger simmered, not hot but clear, like fog lifting. She wasn't the disappointment. She was the deviation, the one who wouldn't bend to their control. And now, she had the truth in her hands. Claire Harper stood in the dim kitchen of her newly claimed house. The air still heavy with the scent of dust and secrets. The notarized will, her father's letter, and the photograph with his handwritten note lay spread across the scarred wooden table. Each item was a piece of a puzzle she'd been conditioned to believe didn't exist. At 29, she'd spent years accepting the role her family assigned her, the outcast. The failure, the one who didn't fit. But now, with her father's words burning in her chest, some signatures are not mine, Claire felt a shift. This wasn't about reclaiming a house. It was about reclaiming herself. She wasn't alone in this fight. Callan Brewster, a lawyer with a reputation for asking questions that made powerful people squirm, had been blacklisted by her sister Vanessa's circle years ago for daring to challenge a shady property deal. When Claire called him, he didn't hesitate. Bring everything, he said, his voice rough but steady over the phone. They met at a diner on the edge of Mercer County. The kind of place where the coffee was bitter and the booths creaked with every shift. Callan, in his rumpled jacket and 5 o'clock shadow, pored over the documents Claire handed him. The will, the letter, the photo. His eyes lingered on the notarized seal, then met hers. This is real, he said. They didn't just rewrite the will. They rewrote you. The first threat came that night. Claire woke to the sharp, chemical stench of smoke. Not the cozy kind from a fireplace but something cold and deliberate. She stumbled barefoot to the back door, where flames licked at the threshold. Small but precise, like a warning carved in fire. Heart pounding, she grabbed the fire extinguisher she'd unpacked just days before and doused the blaze. The silence that followed was heavier than the crackle of flames. The fire department arrived, a young responder jotting notes with a practiced nod. Looks like gasoline, he said. Could be kids pulling a prank. Claire crossed her arms. Kids don't target door hinges. The officer beside him scribbled lazily, suggesting she might have left something burning. She stared him down. You know what's worse than paranoia? Ignoring a pattern. He gave a tight nod and left. Claire didn't sleep that night. By morning, the online storm had begun. Vanessa posted a black and white photo from their father's funeral on Instagram. Captioned, "Some mourn by moving forward. Others unravel." The comments were venomous, anonymous accounts calling Claire unstable, delusional, obsessed. Someone leaked a confidential college evaluation from her first panic attack. Marked sensitive, now weaponized as a punchline. It wasn't just about the house or the will anymore. Vanessa wanted Claire erased, not just from the family but from public perception. Callan called it what it was, a smear campaign. Defamation, intimidation, and abuse of private data. Claire's resolve hardened. She uploaded every document, the will, the letter, the recordings, to 3 encrypted cloud drives. One set to forward to a journalist if anything happened to her. Fear wasn't the goal, readiness was. She reached out to Darla, the family's former housekeeper, who'd raised Claire when her mother was too busy with socialite lunches and Vanessa was too busy playing perfect daughter. Darla lived in a sagging apartment complex. Her name still on the mailbox. When Claire showed her the will, Darla's lips tightened. Vanessa came to me after the funeral. She said, voice low, left a $20 check and told me to stay quiet for the family's sake. She hadn't cashed it but kept it. along with a cassette recorder her father had given her a week before his stroke. He said not to play it unless you came asking for the truth. The tape was a bombshell. Daniel Harper's voice, tired but clear, filled Claire's living room. If this gets buried, I hope someone who loves her enough will make it right. It wasn't just a message, it was a torch. Claire and Callan met outside the courthouse. The air crisp with late autumn chill. He read the will page by page, his fingers pausing at the notarized seal. They didn't just forge a document, he said, they buried the real one. Inside the records office, a clerk with gray hair and sharp eyes confirmed it. Vanessa had filed a different will. Dated 4 months later, Claire walked out with a certified copy, her hands steady but her mind racing. The threats escalated. A text from an unknown number. Back off before you're buried in that house too. Claire saved it, screenshot it, and sent it to Callan. Some people think threats scare you, she said. They forget threats can light a fuse. She wasn't fighting alone anymore. Darla agreed to testify. Her records meticulous, handwritten notes. Timestamps. Even the envelope with Vanessa's hush money. Another ally emerged unexpectedly. Harlan Cade. Vanessa's ex-accountant, who'd vanished after their father's funeral. Callan tracked him down, and Harlan was ready to talk. The courtroom was a pressure cooker. Buzzing with anticipation, Vanessa sat at the defendant's table, flanked by a lawyer who charged by the syllable. She didn't look at Claire. Her presence a silent declaration. You'll never belong again. Callan opened with precision, presenting the original will and playing Daniel's recording. I signed only one version. It's with Claire, Vanessa's lawyer countered with flair, hinting at Claire's emotional volatility. But Darla's testimony was a turning point. She recounted Vanessa's bribe, her voice steady, every fact backed by evidence. Then Harlan took the stand. Vanessa instructed me to backdate documents and use Claire's identity for tax benefits, he said, not glancing at her once. She said, no one checks the shadows. Vanessa's composure cracked, her face draining of color. Claire took the stand last. Her voice clear, unscripted. I didn't come to take from her, she said. I came to take back what she thought I'd never fight for. She laid out the forged documents, the shell accounts, the timeline. This wasn't betrayal, it was strategy. The judge didn't rule that day. But the air shifted, sympathy tilting toward Claire, confusion toward Vanessa. Vanessa stormed out, reporters swarming her like flies. The ruling came on a Thursday. Swift and final. The judge declared Vanessa's will invalid, restoring the original, Claire's inheritance, the house, the storage unit, a share of the foundation, was reinstated. Vanessa was fined, publicly admonished, and her case forwarded for fraud investigation. The media exploded. Air exposed an inheritance fraud. A leaked video of Vanessa mocking their father's post-stroke speech went viral. Her clients dropping her like dead weight. Her business rating tanked. Her name a liability. Claire didn't revel in it. She transferred a parcel of land her father had dreamed of turning into a clinic to a nonprofit in his name. The papers were signed that week, notarized with a weight that felt like justice. At a national talk show, she spoke plainly, no makeup, no script. I wasn't erased by strangers, she said. I was erased by those meant to protect me. You don't need a loud voice to matter, just the truth. Asked about reconciliation, she replied, I don't need reconciliation, I need boundaries. Days later, a voicemail from Vanessa. You ruined me. Claire texted back. You did that yourself. No reply came. That evening, Claire found her father's ring in a velvet box on her doorstep. A note tucked beneath. He said you'd wear it when you were ready. She slipped it on, the silver oak crest cool against her skin. It wasn't a trophy, it was a reminder of what she'd fought for. The community center opened on the donated land, alive with laughter, volunteers, and a mural honoring Daniel Harper. Builder, father, listener. Claire stood before it, not for cameras but for herself. A reporter asked about the family legacy. It's not my story anymore, she said. It's theirs. That night, an email arrived from an unknown sender. Subject line: Mercer County estate dispute. Claire read it twice, her pulse quickening. The house was hers. The truth was out. But something told her the echoes of this fight were far from over.